All right, welcome, folks. Mil-Spec Ops Monkey here. This is going to be your SITREP for Monday, 3/14/22. It is about 11 a.m. Central Time, coming to you from the great state of Texas. And without further ado, let's hop on over here to our board. We're going to kick it off today in Skyglass, and just taking a quick look at what's going on. We got about 434 aircraft up, and that's going to be kind of a global snapshot, military only. But let's see, we got a lot of heavies. If we get into the C-130s, let me just get the C-5s. Oh, let's go. Where are your 17s? A couple more C-130s. That's a pretty big number globally, as you can see. This is the list right here. So, but we're going to take a closer look as I get into it on do this. I'm going to go ahead and pop into our let's see, go U.S. first here. Just take a look at the U.S. heavies, and currently you'll see most of them are C-130s, and a lot of activity probably about from the middle of the U.S. over to the East Coast. Quick hops, if you're noticing. These are not long flights across the country. These are little quick hops. Those could be anything from moving troops into some locations to moving assets and equipment. But there is that one. And then if we get over to the U.S. watch list, I just want to show you also a lot of P-8 activity off the East Coast today, and we'll look at that closer in Open ADS-B here in just a minute. But the other thing, too, we've got 9 spycraft up. Those are going to be those balloons that sit up at about 80,000, 90,000 feet. 9 of those bad dudes. We've got 2 that are low altitude off of Baja, California. But the rest of them are spread out across the U.S. So there is some heavy-duty surveillance going on here across the United States right now in terms of that. Now, if we get over to the EU, we'll take a look at the EU heavies first. And I will tell you, it's been kind of an interesting mix. You're going to notice a lot of activity up on the top corner there in England and into Germany and that general area. But we're moving a lot of assets down. It would look to be into the Cyprus area or into the Mediterranean, which is kind of an interesting data point, right? We're starting to adjust south of Turkey, and that is kind of a hotbed. We see a lot of our Q4s run out of there, and which are a spycraft. That seems to be kind of the spycraft operation site there, just to the, I guess, to the east of Jerusalem and Israel. And then it's just, I don't know. I think it's going to be continuing on. Not seeing a lot of change in tempo other than maybe the reallocation of some assets moving to adjust for some future scenarios. So, but this is US-wise, sitting at about 302 currently. You can see there's a lot of heavies up. A lot of C-130 movements today, just domestically in the U.S. Now, let's get over here real fast, just kind of flatten this out. But this is the general area I was talking about where we're seeing a lot of this activity. This island right here is actually Cyprus, right? And Cyprus is where we see the Q4s come out of. We see a lot of activity take shape here from a spycraft perspective, as well as agency aspects. So we'll continue to keep our eye on that, but there seems to be some type of a buildup here taking shape. It has been for the last couple of days. Now, of course, this is Israel right here. We know we've got some situations going on currently. That's going to be, let me see what that one's actually coming out of Israel. All right. We're not going to worry about that right now. We're going to get back to that in just a second, but this is kind of what your board looks like from a Europe standpoint. Notice we do have a B-52 or 2. It looks like a 2-ship of B-52s up over. It looks like they're leaving the Norway area back to the UK. So they've been spending a lot of time in this region as of recent. So NATO got the AWACS E3 Sentry up here. That's normal. So I guess that's what I was saying, is that the tempo around this region seems to be on a regular rhythm now, right? We've got the NATO birds up. We know they're supporting fighters. And then we've got the surveillance birds up, and they're doing constant surveillance over that area. Now, if we look at the spycraft over the EU real fast, I'll just kind of show you where they're concentrating. It's kind of in that upper left quadrant of the Black Sea, right, out near Moldova in the East Romania area. seems to be their big focus right now. So I think that's probably where we're seeing a lot of the Russian activity and buildup. And then, of course, we've got some of the other sniffer activity going on around there as well, out over towards the Med, which is just an interesting data point. Again, this whole area seems like it's kind of spreading out, I guess would be the term I'm looking for. So this is a little drone right there, a little spy drone you can see popping into the Black Sea area. So, all right, again, just data points. When this thing goes hot, the reason they reposition all their assets, they're setting up some forward base operations, it looks like, and just kind of getting prepared. Now, we know we've got a big push of immigrants coming out of the Ukraine. If we get over here and look at how the squeeze is taking place in the Ukraine, you can see day 19, Russia's really kind of pushing that in from right to left, and it's kind of forcing everybody out into Romania and Poland and that general area. Not too much, from my understanding, into the Belarus area, because Belarus is a pro-Russian location, and so. But I think it's up to around 2 million now, immigrants. I do find it interesting that they aren't talking about the camps that they stood up, because these are very large camps, and they were building them weeks in advance because they expected this very thing to happen, which would mean it's kind of going to plan, doesn't it? So you see a bunch of helicopter activity here in the UK. Don't know what that's all about. I think those are EC-35. So these are going to be just trainers. So there, all right, a couple out here. So, all right, let's get over here to our volcanic alert, ash alert, just to show you. So we got 2 new ones down here in the just north of Australia, Indonesia type of range for ash alerts, and then Central and South America is still popping. Okay, if we get over here to our, I guess you could call him our male bride or mail-in president here. Mail ballot president. This guy is not doing too much today. Looks like he's going to address the National League of Cities Congressional City Conference, whatever that is worth. They're at the Marriott in Washington today. Other than that, he's really not doing anything. He spent the weekend at Camp David. And if we get over here to the TFRs, you can see not too much in terms of new TFRs, other than we've got an air show here. Looks like we've got a season air show. That's an air show down here. Air show here. So mainly just some new air shows popping up. Other than that, nothing really going in terms of TFRs that we need to be paying attention to. Okay. All right, over to Forward Observer, just so you guys can get kind of some data points. I'm talking about this. I mentioned it in my Monkey Minute over the weekend. Food shortages, right? We are seeing a lot of crops getting taken out. We're watching a lot of our food resources being deplenished, and this is not just something that's happened overnight. This has actually been taking shape for a couple years now. We've been tracking this stuff. Anything from locusts devouring crops to drought. But keep in mind, too, that the Russia provides a great deal of fertilizer for other countries. I think it's about 12% of the world gets their fertilizer from Russia. And so if you've locked them down and you can't get fertilizer, that means crops aren't going to be fertilized. Also, you have the impact of diesel fuel costs going up, which means you're going to have food production down. So just a data point, but we need to prepare. Make sure you've got preparations in play to offset that. Okay, if you have to lean in and go to some of your prep supplies to put food on the table, that may be what you're doing. Okay. So the other thing too I was going to show you is that there's notice this right here. It says Nicaragua is actually now supportive, really in full-blown deal with Russia and China. They've been a pro-Russia country for quite a long time. I can remember surfing down in Central America and my brother doing that as well, and taking pictures of Soviet aircraft in the jungles of Nicaragua, which is probably pretty stupid on our part. But yeah, this is something that has been around, that relationship, for quite some time. But it looks like Russia and China are really starting to set up shop in that region. And so if you remember last week, I was talking about a camber flight, which is U.S. mil troop flight headed down to Central America, which I thought was kind of odd. Don't see that very often. Could have been going to XPL Honduras, but I didn't track it to that location. It looked to be going somewhere else like Guatemala. But it's just a data point, but it looks like we are starting to put assets down there as well to kind of counterbalance some of this activity. But pretty crazy. And then let's see if we've got, I think that kind of covers the main deal, but the food shortage is the big one that caught my eye on that, all right? Now, just kind of the segue into that food shortage, India's inflation is surging to an 8-month high over soaring food prices. It's only going to get worse because of this Russia war. Just want to point that out because the rest of the world is seeing that as well, right? We've got this going on with China. We've got it going on in the U.S. I mean, we're seeing inflation, the U.K. There's a lot of places that are dealing with this right now. And it's not just gas and oil. It's actually food supplies, okay? So just a data point. Again, also wanted to point out Ukrainian refugees have been turned away by the southern border. Now, you remember we had this omnibus bill that just got pushed through, and it gave $0 to our southern border. But I wanted to show you the fact that we know we bring in the Haitians, we bring in God knows who else at our southern border. But the fact that we're turning away Ukrainian refugees is kind of a data point that we need to pay attention to, because why? I mentioned over the weekend, Ukraine is 71% Christian in terms of the makeup of their country. And the fact that we aren't letting them come into our country, but yet we're letting the Muslims come in, that's a different mindset, different way of thinking, and it's all by design, folks. So this is not a good situation. Of course, we don't like anybody just bolting into our southern borders without following the process to begin with, but the fact that these guys are getting turned away and it's a wartime situation doesn't seem right when you're allowing everybody else to come in, okay? So just a data point, but again, this is actually Israeli national news. And then again, over here on Israeli national news, there's India is actually accidentally launches a missile at Pakistan. Remember, these are two nuclear countries, so to have that happen, we talk about wars and rumors of wars. This is definitely, you can see the whole world bubbling right now, and I don't see any scenario in which this stuff starts to stand down. In fact, I see it escalating, and it's just going to take somebody to do one thing stupid, and it's going to get out of control. And so here another one. This is just another data point, but the Syrian mercenaries in Ukraine coming, 16,000 of them, that was actually confirmed by the Russian Defense Ministry. So now you're taking, remember, Syria is a big area we need to be watching for. Damascus, you've got all of that up there, and that's just north of Israel, right? And so Iran's in that region and several others. But for them to take 16,000 mercenaries and pump them into Ukraine is definitely not good. Talk about war crimes. That seems awfully not good, okay, to say the least. So, and then don't forget too, we had going into the weekend, we had Iran basically firing ballistic missiles into Iraq. That was actually an attack against some Israeli targets, which that again is going to heat up. I mean, you've got don't forget Gog Magog, as we talk about it on a regular basis. You have that's going to be Iran, Russia, and Turkey primarily that are part of that. And so you can see these guys starting to really bubble into the headlines. All right. And last thing here, actually second to last thing, this is actually Russia's asking China for military aid, which I find very interesting. These two relationships seems to be getting very solidified during this time. And so China's denying it, but Russia is obviously going to have to go somewhere. We know they're helping them financially. And so now we've got two sides actually feeding this war machine, right? We've got the U.S. Sending, shoulder fire Stinger missiles into Ukraine. We've got them supporting with other assets to their troops. We've got them sending aircraft into the region. And then you've got on the other side China supporting Russia, which is not good. Like I said, I don't see this thing de-escalating on any level. And then here it is, a little chest pounding by China. No one and no force could stop them from taking Taiwan as 13 jets breached the Taiwanese airspace. We've seen this on a regular basis. Like I said, if they're going to strike, they're going to strike here pretty soon. As I mentioned before, we have been putting military assets in the Asian region now for about 6 weeks nonstop, okay? And we'll take a look at that again today. It looks like everything seems to be slowing down, headed that direction, but we're going to, again, we'll take a look here in just a second. From a cyber attack perspective, let's get out here to the old flat map looking deal. And you can see it's pretty active today. A lot of the stuff looks to be going outbound of these countries. And you can see U.S. seems to be pretty active right now in terms of cyber attack. And then it looks like some stuff coming out of Brazil into Europe. But we'll keep our eye on that. When it goes really crazy, we'll see this thing. It'll just be a hot mess all the way across. So, all right. Let's get over here to Biggs Army Airfield, where today it's actually very, very quiet. Nothing really on the board. We had one flight that bailed out a little earlier. I'm going to show you that here next. But just to show you from the arrivals board, let's get into what happened over the weekend. Now, we last got together here on Friday. So it looks like we only had one 757-200 come in from Yuma over the weekend, and that's going to be National Cargo based out of Orlando. So, but that was a Yuma inbound flight. And then let's see, I don't think we had anything else on the board from that perspective. So let me get over here to departures. And yeah, so that went up to Kentucky. So, okay. And then this one here looked like on Saturday we had a 6-7 Eastern Airlines roll from Biggs to Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Again, I don't know what's going on with these. If they're troops, then looks like we may be positioning some assets domestically. And if they're not troops, then we're moving poppies probably around the country. But that doesn't, this has a feel like we're starting to reposition stuff here in the U.S., okay? All right. Speaking of Campbell, we just kind of pop over to their board. You can see you got this arrival coming in from Biggs that just left this morning. And then from there, it's headed to Cherry Point, North Carolina. Definitely going to be, that's a troop mover. Sure, okay. All right, looking at Omni. Now, this is one that's been kind of an interesting deal. If you notice where the Omni flights are headed, these are, like I said, usually these are going to be some troop support, but they also move immigrants because we've gotten some data points in that would confirm that, okay? Not quite as much, but these are troop movers. You can see this one's headed up here to Alaska. This one's coming back from Guam into Hawaii. And then these two are really interesting because we seem to be moving, again, assets down to the very tip of South America, which we've seen that before. The reason I point that out is because if we get back over here to Forward Observer, you're going to note that there is a big concern. Let me drill on down here into this, but U.S. Southern Command, this is a big concern for the U.S. right now because China and Russia are setting up shop big time down here in South America. And so that's why we're seeing this troop movement going in and out of the tip down here, and we're getting other assets in. Okay. All right. So that was the Omni flights. Now, this is going to be the Camber flights. I only see one. Looks like it was coming out of Ramstein, and it's updating right now. It may have landed or it's about to land, but it looks to be headed into this is actually Turkey that it's over right now, but it looks to be headed into probably, if I had to guess, Bahrain. Okay. So, all right, let's see what happens here. It looked like I had a quick disconnect and a reconnect. So hopefully you guys are still there. Like I'm still. Okay, this is a Swift. Actually, no, sorry. This is a Royal Air Force transport flights. These are troop movers. Again, a lot of stuff coming in the U.S. And that one looks like it's headed here from the UK into Georgia. So that's North Carolina. So that could be headed into, well, let's see. That is probably going to be Pope Army Airfield, if I had to guess, right here, outbound. All right, so that's that one headed back to the UK. All right, so, all right. And, of course, we just looked at some Biggs flights rolling into that same region, all right? So it looks like we've got something going on there at Fort Bragg in North Carolina. All right, now the other piece, too, you can see a lot of movement here. The Brits seem to be moving more so than the U.S. stuff at the moment, again, around this region. This is Poland up here, all right? But they seem to be moving some assets up here along in the kind of up south of I guess the Netherlands and that general region. So we've seen, if you looked at the spycraft, we've seen the spycraft running routes in here quite a bit. And so you got, I think that's Latvia in here, and but Lithuania, Latvia, that kind of area. So, but this is where we've seen a lot of the spycraft from the Sweden aircraft doing routes. Okay, so. Kind of aligns with what we're seeing here in terms of troop support and assets. All right, let's get over to the U.S. Let's just take a quick look at what's going on. This is going to be our DOJ FBI flight in 721AL. Just want to show you that it came out of Richmond back into D.C. on Friday. We were tracking that on Friday, and it had actually been down here in Nashville. All right, Houston into Nashville. So it looks like you had two teams that deployed. Looks like they're back in D.C. today. And we get over here, and this one I thought was a real interesting deal. This is actually going to be your Secretary of Homeland Security headed down to Mexico City, all right? And if we go back over here, we had a flight, actually, let me get back this side. We actually had a flight, looked like it was headed down, a SAM flight. Let's see if it pulls up again, but there was a SAM flight headed to that same area this morning from D.C. Don't think it's arrived yet, but there it is right there, SAM 541. Don't know who's on that, but they're headed down to the same area as our Secretary of Security. Usually when we see this go on, we end up with some shenanigans happening at our southern border, okay? So just a data point again. And then if we get over to our Swift Airs, we don't want to lose sight of these guys. This is basically our well-oiled machine of the immigration pump, okay? And so you can see they're moving anything. I mean, they're all over the place from Miami, Haiti, Dominican Republic, down to Central and South America. Now, the big question is, are they coming back empty? Are they coming back with people on them? Or are they going down full? Are they going down empty? That's the unknown, okay? But this has been going on for quite some time, and so it's definitely a well-oiled machine. So don't want to lose sight of it. We'll just keep tabs. From time to time, you'll see these guys starting to move some stuff to backfill, okay? And then another one I just want to point out, I was looking at, this is an old bird we saw bump into the schedule in Guantanamo Bay, and I just, from time to time, I go back and I look at those birds that bubble in to see what they're up to. Are they doing new flights? Are they still supporting kind of some agency type of work? And on this one, I just want to show you how it's coming out of the Bahamas into Lauderdale. But I also want to show you all of the legwork here between Opa-locka and Lauderdale. The reason I say that is, remember, this is believed to be kind of one of those black sites where they are actually working, an agency working out of there, and as well as Lauderdale, right? That used to be, during the Cold War, the Cuban Missile Crisis, Opa-locka was actually one of the agency, alphabet soup agency locations for I guess monitoring the stuff going on down there. So, but just as a data point, notice all of the flights that are Opa-locka. Quite a bit of activity back and forth in Lauderdale. Okay. All right, and then this one, this is N312FU. Remember that we found this one back in the Maxwell days when she was apprehended. So we call this the infamous Maxwell bird. But just want to show you, this one is coming out of Boca, headed to Guantanamo Bay today. That is definitely an out-of-sequence flight. Normally, we see this style aircraft coming in on a Tuesday, Friday tempo. So when you see it bump in on a Monday, it's definitely doing something out of sequence. So coming in from Boca, and then from there, it heads over to St. Augustine. Okay, get back over here to the flat map real fast and make sure we have covered everything. Again, this one is headed to Mexico City. And let me see if we've got any resources up that catches my eye. I'm not seeing a couple things. Really, we do have a 703. So we got a couple spycraft up here in the U.S. Let me see if we got any E6s that I was looking at earlier. We did have, okay, so we've got two E6s. That one's running routes off the East Coast. Remember, this is an airborne command center. ACMO, I guess is what they're calling it. It's a Navy bird. And then let's see here. Where's my 6 as we just kind of get into the mix of this. But this is what we expect, especially in today's kind of environment. And I was trying to see if I was looking for Night Watch, but I don't see Night Watch up at all. So, and then here's the other one. This one's actually over the central U.S. So we've got 2 airborne command centers. Remember, these guys are the ones talking to our missiles, right? Those are ICBM communicators, so to speak, right? Airborne command centers for that. And so that's the E6 Mercury. And so, all right. Well, listen, it looks like things are heating up globally on a pretty big scale. As I showed you all the headline reports coming in from around the world, a lot of stuff happening, really coast to coast. You got stuff happening over in Asia, and that's including India, right? And of course, we've got a battle going on between India and China on that border. It's been happening for quite some time. We don't really read much about that, but Middle East, it looks like it's heating up. You got Iran taking shots at Israel in Iraq, which is interesting. I am sure that Israel will retaliate to that. There's no doubt about it, because they don't take anything lying down, and if you strike them, they will strike back. Okay, so we'll just keep our eye on it, but watch this stuff going on with NATO and with the U.S. there in the EU. Right now, it looks like they've established a tempo, and they're starting to just kind of move some assets around, repositioning them. But if we see a deviation in that, that's what we're looking for now, right? We've kind of established they've got the same spycraft coming up in the same region every single time. They've got the same NATO birds doing flights every single time, same areas, which means we've got fighters up in the area. And now we're just watching for something to deviate. More than likely, somebody will breach that airspace, and that's when it'll go hot. So, all right, listen, that's going to be it. You guys stay frosty out there. Keep your powder dry. It's definitely going to be an interesting year, to say the least. Spring, most part, is going to be in like a lion. So, all right, that's it. God bless. Monkey out. Check out the latest gear and products at monkeyworksus.com.